Ask and you shall receive. You're looking for part two of Is It Worse to Have a Toxic Mother or Absent Father? Here it is. So, in my previous video, I talk about how it is for a daughter to have an absent father. So, we're going to talk about how it is for a son to have an absent father. And some of it is obvious, and some of it is not so obvious. So, when a man grows up without a masculine present in the home, he is more likely to take on feminine traits as an adult, as a younger child, as an older child. The issues and things that we complain about today about men not wanting to be men or men kind of to be sassy, this is where that comes from. And you can't really blame them because, again, they're just raised by their mothers. And even though their mother has to tap into her masculinity, that's not her nature. So her nature is femininity, and that is what she's going to pass on down to her sons. When a child does not have good examples of fatherhood and good masculine energy in the household, there's a lot of things that can happen. But one of the things is that he's going to get it from someone. Typically, it's not going to be from someone that is worthy of teaching your child, aka the streets, aka probably an older figure that has no business being around kids, or just from other children who are just misguided and like blind leading the blind. So now you have a young man that has emotions, but handle his emotions in the feminine aspect. And we're not saying it's feminine for boys and young men to have emotions, but how they react to them can be very feminine and not masculine. One of the biggest things or attributes a man can learn about himself is to be able to control his emotions and think with his head and not move with his emotions. When he does not see that or is not taught that, then he is going to make some changes and some choices in his life that can be detrimental for years on. If he does not have anybody in his life to show him how to channel his emotions into a more masculine way, a more precise way, a more reasonable way without acting on his emotions, then he is going to fail in life so many times. That's why you see a lot of these young men out here resorting to violence. They're shooting instead of having good conflict resolution because they are acting on their emotions because who raised them were emotional. And they are used to seeing who raised them respond to their issues and their problems with emotion. So what typically happens is you have these young men out here committing crimes and just doing things that doesn't make sense to us as adults or older adults or mature adults, but to them, they're in the moment. Like that whole YOLO mindset, just doing things that how you feel at this moment. Or you hear a lot of guys say, I'm in my feelings, and then they're acting on those feelings. The problem with acting on your feelings is that feelings change literally in a second, in a minute, in an hour, in a day or a week. And so sometimes when you make choices based on how you feel, those choices cannot most likely be the best choice for you in your situation. You're just responding on how you feel at that moment, and it can be detrimental to your future. And this is why we see the young men how they are today. When they enter relationships, and they want a feminine woman, but they are feminine themselves, you're going to bump heads because here you have a naturally masculine man, but do not know how to tap in his masculinity, so he's frustrated, but he knows feminine energy. He mastered feminine energy, and then he has a woman that's trying to bring in feminine energy. It's going to clash all the time. Or you're just going to get with a woman that's more masculine, you're more feminine, and in the long run that really doesn't necessarily work because as the two get older you start to realize your ways are not conducive to the way God created you. Then that's when we start to unpack our childhood traumas, aka therapy, which I totally suggest to everyone. Not only when the father decides to walk away from his responsibilities, he is walking away from teaching his child to stand on responsibilities as well. You have a lot of the young men who just do not know how to see things through, whether that means seeing through a job, seeing through getting a college degree, seeing through a relationship, seeing through a project. A lot of men don't make it to the finish line. A lot of men don't know how that looks like or what that looks like because they don't have the examples to show them anything because their father walked out on their lives. So they feel as if it's okay to neglect your responsibility and to later on in life beg for forgiveness because you decided to neglect your responsibilities. And then in turn, when they start to have children, walking away and child support and things of that nature will be an option to them because that's what happened to them. They don't see it completely necessary because you'll hear them say things like, oh, I came out okay. My dad left me. My mom raised me and I came out okay. When you being okay is just okay. You could have been great. There's a lot of things that can happen to young boys and young men when their fathers decide to walk out the home. And it's not just women being toxic. Men need to step up as well and raise their kids because it could be detrimental on both ends.